we're going to talk about the new console projects that are in the works for the big three companies, which once again are Microsoft, Nintendo, and Sony. So as you guys probably noticed in our Microsoft conference video, we didn't talk about Project Scorpio or the Xbox One S. We thought it'd be better just to save it for this video, where we talk about those projects kind of in relation to Sony's what is Sony's project called again? Sony Neo. Yeah.
PS Neo.
Yeah, the Neo and Nintendo's NX. Because I feel like, those are, as a consumer and as gamers, we kind of thought that when we think about what's going on with one side of the consoles, we kind of have to think about all of them because that's how we buy products. So I guess what I kind of want to start off with is, I don't know, there's so many things going on here, so I'm not even sure where to start. So things that strike me off the bat, thinking about this topic of this kind of next gen that isn't a next gen, at least on the Sony Microsoft side, that's what it's going to be. I find it really weird that the Xbox One S was introduced at the start of the conference for Microsoft, and it was like, cool, another option in case you didn't get your Xbox yet. And then they're like, by the way, Project Scorpio is coming out next year, pretty soonish, and it was kind of odd. And they're like, it's not. So for those of you not familiar, Project Scorpio, it's supposed to just kind of have better graphics amongst a lot of other things, sort of. But you can play your Xbox One games on that. It's all part of the Xbox One Gen family. It's unclear whether or not they'll make exclusives for Scorpio. It's implied that they won't, but they could because they never said they wouldn't. And then Sony's side, we have the NX, which is also supposed to just kind of be another option. It's not good. It's going to have the same kind of compatibility. And then the NX is going to be something entirely different. We don't know if it can play Wii U games. We do know that the new Zelda games is going to be able to be played on the Wii U and the NX. And that's basically all we know. It's a very awkward time to be a consumer. So I guess my question for you, Jess, is if you didn't own an Xbox yet, or a PlayStation yet, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that's the case. Wii U's kind of dying out, so that's why I'm posing it to these two. If you didn't own these consoles yet, do you get them or do you wait?
Okay, so it's an interesting question, especially because I do own an Xbox One and I still don't know what to do. But if I was someone who didn't own a console at all, yet one of the main gen consoles right now, I think I would. Here's the thing. This is what I would say. When I was watching Microsoft's conference and they had the Xbox One S come up, at the very beginning, I got all excited, even though I already have an Xbox One, and I was thinking, hey, you know what? When they have a GameStop deal for me to trade in my Xbox One to get one of these puppies, I'm gonna do it. I'm sold. We're good to go. So I was already done. I was already there with you. I'm there with you. I'm getting this console. And then they bring up the new thing, which confused me and made me angry because I don't like being confused. And so I think that if I was someone who didn't have an Xbox One yet, I would still have been sold on the Xbox One S. It sounds great. I'm happy with my Xbox One. It's way better than my Xbox 360, which was a piece of shit, to be perfectly honest. So my Xbox One's great. The Xbox One S is smaller and cuter and runs better. Cool. Done. I don't understand what Project Scorpio is, so I'm not sure if I want to wait or not for it, but I'm guessing, it's like one of those situations where it's like the new Nintendo 3DS versus the Nintendo 3DS. I had not been up to date with the handheld systems at all for a while, and, recently I got my new Nintendo 3DS, but for a while I was debating whether or not I just wanted to get the old Nintendo 3DS because it was going to be cheaper, but it gets to a point where you're kind of like, yeah, well, I should get the new one, though, just in case they come out with exclusives, or I should get the new one, though, just so I can be up to date, because, eventually they're going to come out with more new stuff, and then I'm just way more behind. And so I'm kind of feeling like I would go for Project Scorpio. But then, of course, we have the whole other side of PlayStation, which has never been an issue for me recently because I'm normally an Xbox person. I played the PS2 when they had it because I had different games, and it was great, and I really liked Sony, but then after that I split off into the Xbox, and I've never, really needed a PS4 or a PS3 before. And now they've got all this new stuff coming out with the PlayStation. And I already know I need a PlayStation because they have all these great games that I can't not have. And now I have no idea what iteration of the PlayStation I'm supposed to be buying. So I think they all got together and did a really good job of confusing and frustrating people. It was like too much excitement. You just gotta calm down, just pace it out. and they didn't do that at all. So I don't know what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
It's upsetting.
Yeah, I'm totally in the same boat. I think everyone's in that boat, and it's a boat of uncertainty and angst and depleting bank accounts because, well, I mean, obviously, if I had the money to just get all the stuff, I still don't think I would. And obviously, people always talk about what they would do if they had money, and then when they get money, it's different. But, I just don't, that's, not what I want from the industry. So, what I mean by this is, and I have mentioned this a couple times at a couple different places on the internet. So if you're somehow following me on all of them, you'll, keep hearing the same thing over and over again. But I feel like Xbox Scorpio, Project Scorpio, one thing that it mentions really early on in its announcement footage is beyond generation, or beyond the generation. So what I took that to mean, and after kind of dipping around the internet to hear other people's thoughts, is that they're trying to get rid of the concept of generations. So before we had, we have generations of okay, your PS3 does not play the same games as your PS4 does. And sometimes we have backwards compatibility and things like that. And sometimes games get released for two consoles and things like that. Or you get remastered. So there's different ways that we dip into other gens, historically speaking. But it sounds like what Xbox is trying to do, and I highlight them because they talked a lot about, what was the name of their initiative? It was the Play Anywhere, was that what it was called?
I think so.
It was
or Play Everywhere or something like that.
Yeah, it was something of that nature, of this idea that, oh, look, it's all, the games, you can have it on your PC or your Xbox One or your One S, and then when the Scorpio comes out, you can do it on your Scorpio. And they're trying to, I feel sell it to me as this, illusion of choice, and that's something that comes up a lot. People are well, who cares? They're giving us choice, right? You don't have to upgrade. But I do, because or I'll get left behind. And they say they're very specific on their conference that we're not leaving you behind. But they are, because you're leaving me, because you're going to better graphics and you're going to a better system. And how big is that? My question is, how big is that gap going to be in aesthetic? Is it going to be so big that I'm going to be wow, what am I doing with this effing Xbox One or Xbox One S when the Scorpio looks way better? And why did I buy this Xbox One S when knowing this is going to come out? Maybe I should just wait. But then the issue with that too is, how much is the Xbox Scorpio going to cost? Because it's all about 4K and these more intensive graphics and things like that. But that typically is kind of expensive. Not to get a 4K TV, but I've heard that 4K tech, for lack of a better term, can be pricey, and they're not telling you the price of it. Mm-hmm. So is this going to be a $600 console? Is it going to be a luxury item that I can't afford anyway? And I'm going to get there, and Scorpio's going to come out, and I'm going to be wow, I actually can't afford you. Could have had the Xbox One a year ago. So that's what's uncomfortable about it. There's so many layers of discomfort here, and I'm not okay with it. And I feel I guess maybe my question to you then is, how do you feel about this idea of erasing the generation? Because the PlayStation Neo is also kind of in that same boat. The NX at least is something different, so I think it's still in lines of going into gens. But the Neo is oh, it's part of the PlayStation 4 family. It's all in the family. I guess how do you feel about that concept and the idea of there being a shortening of the gap between quote unquote new consoles in some way?
I have a lot of feelings, and I'm trying to sort through them all about all this. The fact of the matter is that, first of all, I don't think they did a very good job of explaining what these new consoles were to an entire generation of people that they have ingrained the idea of generations into. This is all I know. This is who I am. It's generations of consoles. You can't just rip out the rug from under me and expect me to know what's going on. You have to, if someone wants to, change the game, you really have to walk me through it. Because, despite popular belief, I'm not that smart. So, I really, and I think that's true for most consumers, I really want someone to walk me through everything that you're talking about, especially because this is a really persistent pattern that we've all been living with for a really long time, and it's what we come to expect. And so when everyone just starts talking about new consoles, even if you're oh no, it's all part of the same family, or oh, no one's getting left behind, immediately I'm thinking, oh my god, I can't afford a new console. Are all my games that I just bought not going to work on this new one? And I just get all this stress and anxiety that's been built into me from childhood, when they come out with the Game Boy Advance, and I'm damn it, everything I know is done, I have to start anew, and it's a really stressful feeling, and I don't know if all gamers feel like that, but I always do. even if you get excited for some of the advancements they have with consoles, it's so expensive. And I don't like a shortening of a gap with consoles because I need time to sort of, I don't know, recuperate my funds, after I just bought your other huge console that, like, wiped out my bank account. So I don't care. I'm with you. I don't really care if they say that it's like I'm not getting left behind. I want the new thing. I want to be up to date, and it makes it very hard for me to be up to date when they come out with new things all the time. It needs to be slower, I think. And I mean, as much as I'm going to complain about it, I'm definitely going to get these new things still. I'm still going to get the new things, and that's the problem. And I'm not sure whether or not it's really a money grab for them or if they're really trying to just, like, do something different. So whether or not it's corporate greed or, like, it's, like, industry genius or whatnot, it's still going to end up sapping on my money.
Yeah. I think also, like, there's also the danger of, like, them flooding the market with too many things, and then everything kind of, like, falling in on itself. I mean, we saw, like, the classic examples, like, with the so many iterations of Sega, like, Sega CD, Sega 32X, there's, like, all these different iterations of it, and it gets crazy, and, like, there's only, like, so much of that we allow on a couple levels, like, allow in terms of, like, I think the market, and then also in terms of, like, what is, I guess, like, gaming socially acceptable. So, like, coming out with the Xbox One S is so, like, that's totally normal in video game culture, and that's actually great. I love when they do stuff like that, because what's great about that is, like, oh, if I was one of those people that didn't buy my Xbox One yet, which I did, so I probably won't get it, because, it doesn't make a lot, it is beautiful and things that I was salty that when I saw it, I'm like, I want it, but I'm not going to get it because it doesn't make a lot of sense to buy it. But I'm like, that's great, because if you haven't gotten one, you can get that, and it's beautiful, and it has a lot of things that I wish the original had, and that's exactly what you look for. We had, like, different, PlayStation Slim. We see this happen plenty of times with consoles. It's just kind of a way to, like, it's like a victory lap of, hey, we made money off this, we can kind of make money on this other thing as well. It's the same thing, and it's kind of casting another net to consumers if they didn't get caught in the first net. So that's totally fine. And the 3DS did that a lot, the Game Boy Color. Game Boy did that a lot, actually, with the fat Game Boy Pocket, and Game Boy Color. It went on that for a while. But yeah, the issue with this, and I've talked to my brother about this extensively, is, one thing he mentioned, and we're kind of, like, in the same brain length of kind of what's going on a little bit, or brain wave length or something, is he's like, well, they're trying to make it like they're acting like it's a phone or something. Like, oh, I can just, obviously they're making improvements to the console, the same way we make improvements to phones, like the iPhone, things like that. But, like, I'm not going to upgrade every year like I upgrade my phone, even though I also don't upgrade my phone every year. But some people do, and that's a lot more normal and fiscally okay. Because I use my phone every day and all the time, and it's different, and it's cheaper, and it's just a different thing. Like, that's not what we do with consoles. That's not how this works. So it's very frustrating for me, and I really hate when people try to tell me that it is just giving me options, because it's not. It's, like, forcing my hand in uncomfortable and scary, risky ways, because now I have to play this game, like you mentioned, of, like, well, what do I spend my money on? And then, yeah, it's horrible. I hate it. It's so bad. And I feel like because if I wanted top-of-the-line things, I would just get really into PC gaming, because PCs produce the best graphics, the best everything. We joke PC Master Race for a reason. And people that, like, are really into that stuff, it's kind of like why I have a Mac instead of a computer, or a non-Mac laptop or whatever. Yeah, I get that it's not the best, but it's easy, and I like it, and that's what I do, and this is, like, who I am, and that's it, kind of an extreme example, but, like, consoles, like, if I wanted to get the highest tech, I wouldn't even be with consoles right now. Like, I'm with consoles because they provide, like, X amount of years, and they provide these certain games, and I like that, and that's how, like, this works, and that's how we do things, and we don't do things any other way. So, like, this is just really strange, and it's, like, really flooding the market in uncomfortable ways. And I feel like the reason this happened, my theory on why this happened, is because everyone follows Nintendo, even when Nintendo's failing. So and Nintendo shouldn't have, well, you can debate whether or not they should be doing the NX. Typically, you should just wait and just say, I missed out on this gen, because they did, the Wii U failed. But they're jumping the gen early and doing the NX because the Wii U failed so badly. Okay, that's fine. But now Microsoft and Sony looked at that and said, oh, like, we need something new now too. But their new thing also isn't really new. So I'm just confused and angsty.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's enough new stuff for it to warrant a new generation, is one of the problems that I have too. Or even though if they say it's not a new generation, it feels like a new generation, and it's because they've sort of marketed it in a similar way, like it's this big new thing that I'm supposed to be excited about and get on board with. And I don't have enough. I feel like my energy stocks for that kind of thing have to like replenish over time, because it takes a lot out of me. But I think that's true about the NX. I think a lot of it's possible that Microsoft and Sony sort of jumped the gun because they saw what Nintendo was doing. But the fact of the matter is that Nintendo always does its own thing, and I don't understand why anyone else would be paying attention to them, because as much as I love Nintendo, like you mentioned, the Wii U didn't do well, and Sony and Microsoft are both doing really great right now. And I think that Nintendo's going to be fine. Like, I think the NX is going to be really interesting. And honestly, I think if they'd given the Wii U more of a chance, it could have picked up a bit. Like, when the Xbox One first came out, it was not doing well at all. I mean, I don't know if you remember that or not, but before E3 2015, and a little bit before that, it started to pick up a little bit before E3. But when it first came out, no one was buying it. Everyone was staying on their Xbox 360s because it wasn't backwards compatible and all these other issues that they were having. But they picked up the ball, and now it's, a big deal. Everyone's got the new gen, and they made a ton of money this past fiscal year with the Xbox One, and I think that it might have been smarter for Nintendo to wait on the Wii U. I think one of the big issues with the Wii U, which is an issue that Nintendo has a lot because they are bad at naming things and marketing things, is that no one really knew what it was. Because I saw the Wii U and I didn't really understand that it was a different console, and I didn't have a Nintendo Wii at the time, so I didn't get what was going on with that. But now I want the Wii U now that I know what it is. And I think that's their biggest issue, is that they really could have just marketed it better, and if they had taken the time to do that instead of doing a new console, we might not be in the position of everyone freaking out and trying to come up with new things.
Yeah, and then it's also, so just kind of an unfortunate domino effect, at least in my perspective of it, because that's the only reason that I can understand why we would do a gen jump, because that's not how the gens work. And with Xbox, it's so clearly like, even if their gen jump is erasing the gen, which I guess is kind of what they're trying to do, it's still very clearly like a new thing, because if it was the same thing, it would be the same thing as the 1S. The Scorpio is something different, and we still don't know what so it's like, if it was really the same, why would you give me it's like why did you serve me 2 entrees with my meal?
Yeah.
Like, what do I eat? I don't know, but I can't afford both, and I'm not even that hungry. Like, that's how I feel.
I just ate now.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I just ate. We just ate. We just ate. Yeah, and of course, I have, my American friends who are like, oh, it's just more food. It's great. So I'm like, this is wasteful and dumb. But, so, then I'm also American, but I just wanted to make the social joke. But, so, it's just like, also, kind of to backtrack a little bit, at first I also thought, and the Wii U was poorly marketed, and people were confused about it, but then I realized, another realization I had with my brother, these are all just with my brother, is like, other things weren't named very well either. Like, Xbox 360, Xbox One, which way are you going in your numbers? It's still different enough, though, that I get that it works, but I don't think anyone names their stuff well, except for Sony, but that's really boring. PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2. It's very safe and linear.
I prefer that.
Yeah, but like, it's, I don't even know where I'm going with anything, but it's just like, it just feels like a complete mess. And I think, so I guess one thing that's also happening with this, because I feel like the Nintendo's not only just like going into a new gen, but they're also like, they're very much hyping up that this is going to be so different. And that's their big thing they're emphasizing. So they're very clear this is a new gen. This is like, it's going to be different. It's going to be like, unlike, we're going to change the entire way video games are done. And that's why they say that they're so secretive on it. They're like, the reason we are not showing you is because we don't trust the other competitors. And I get that, because that does make sense. But it also...
Classic Nintendo.
Yeah, but it also kind of feels like, it's like, oh, honey, it's not that I think you'll cheat on me. It's just that I don't trust everyone around you. But because of that, everyone else is also doing that. So Project Scorpio is like, it's going to be so gorgeous, and like, just wait, and like, we're not going to really tell you what it is, but just like, trust us. And then Neo was, I think, the worst one so far, which is also unfortunate for me, because I don't own the PlayStation 4 yet, but like, they didn't talk about the Neo in Sony's conference, didn't talk about the Project Neo, and I don't understand why they didn't, because especially if it's coming within like this general year, and by a year I mean like, from this today, this year, to like this day, 2017, is what I mean by a year. But because I saw a video recently on GameSpot or some type of video game journalism website that was talking about the Neo and it's coming out this year or whatever. So why wouldn't they talk about it? Like, I need to know what that is. And they didn't say anything, and that really bothered me that Sony did not talk about it at all at their conference. And everyone's literally just holding their cards, and I feel like it's making consumers suffer because no one wants to tell us anything because they're, like, paranoid about everyone else, but I just don't know where to, like, I have money to give you, and I'm confused and hurt and sad and frustrated.
You know what I think it's like? I think it's like, I think it's kind of like, you know, if you run into an ex and your ex is like dating this amazing girl, you know, or whoever, and you run into them and it's sort of like, you know, they're together and they're just talking about how great their relationship is. And so that's Nintendo. And then, like, you know, you've got Microsoft or Sony over here and they run into them and they're like, oh yeah, I've got a boyfriend too, you know, he's really great, you know, blah, 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 and talking all about it, and he's not even real.
Sony's console in Canada.
Or like it's the one, you went on one date with them, you know, yeah, exactly. Yep, so that's what it feels like, which makes me think that there's not a lot there yet. So, I mean, like, am I gonna, like run into you later and your boyfriend is, like, this person that you've been dating for a week? You know? That's what I'm concerned about.
That's an incredible analogy. There's a lot of, like, excitement surrounding these things that are very, like, that feel very unstable and foreign. You know, especially, you know, we talked recently in the last video a little bit about VR. So there's, like, this VR stuff where I'm like, I don't really know how it's going to work, or what is this? Should I get this? Then there's, like, all these new consoles that are not new consoles. And then Nintendo actually has a new console. So, yeah, and it's just, like, a complete mess. So I think since there's not really a way out of here because we're just stuck against this wall of, like, what do we do? I guess an ending question I'd like to present you, even though I presented it at the beginning, but, you know, what are you actually going to do in terms of buying things for this gen? Do you have a plan? Like, I'm trying to figure out my plan and I don't really have anything.
Yeah. Okay. I know I'm going to upgrade my Microsoft console in some manner. I'm not sure if it's going to be with the Xbox One S or the Scorpio, but most likely the Scorpio, which makes me a little sad because I kind of wanted the Xbox One S, but now I feel like they took that option away from me. And then I'm going to get a PlayStation of some sort because I have to play all these new games. So after doing a little bit of research and figuring out exactly what everything is, even though they didn't talk very much about it, I'm either going to be getting the PlayStation... Well, I'll probably get the PlayStation 4, like, reboot, you know, that they have, and then, unless the Neo just has me so sold, you know, well, I'm thinking about it because it has, like, VR a bit more, so, I mean, depending on when it comes out, I might go that direction, and then I'm definitely getting the NX, and all of these things are for future Jess, who has a great job, and has paid all her bills and her student loans.
Well, started paying the student loans. I doubt you'll... Yeah,
started paying them. No, it's going to take years. This will take my whole life.
Yeah. You know, if it wasn't for those loans... I looked at the numbers, and, like, if it wasn't for these loans, I could live a pretty nice life. So it's a little unfortunate. But, so on my end, to answer my own question as well, just for fair is fair, I am going to stick with my Xbox One. I do eventually want the One S because it's beautiful, and it's smaller and doesn't have that ugly brick, and it's great, and I love it. I love seeing that. I'll eventually get it at some point in my life because I do want to collect some consoles, and it seems like one I would need. I'm gonna wait, and I'm probably just gonna wait for, like, I don't know. I don't know what it would take for me to buy Scorpio since it's not really a new thing. I definitely first want to see the price, and then hear about, you know, if it really does play all the same games, then it doesn't really matter, and it's, like, lower on my list to upgrade because it's not really a new thing anyway, unless, like, the look is way different, or unless, like, one thing I'm worried about is, like, games playing, like, not as nicely if they're not on the Scorpio. That's a concern I have. So I'm going to kind of wait and see what is going on with that, which I normally actually do with major consoles. I've never bought a major console on release day. The new 3DS was my first release day console ever. So I'm going to wait definitely on that. For Sony, I am going to get the PS4, which I don't already have, because I don't want to miss out on these games. Like we talked about in our last video, I really want to play these games. I don't want to, like, play them way after I've never wanted to just, like, be in the moment so much with video games as I do now. Maybe it's because I'm also older and have the money to kind of, or I will have the money eventually to, like, at least make some more of those decisions. So I'm going to jump the gun on that. I don't know what I'm going to do about the Neo, actually. I don't know. I think I'm kind of, like, I'm just in a horrible spot with Sony right now, and it's very bad. So I think I'm just I guess I'll just wait. I guess it won't really matter, but I'm not really that big on VR, so I'm hoping I won't really care, but I don't really know what else the Neo entails, and there's so little, like, out there right now about it. And then for Nintendo, definitely just buying the NX. So those are, or at least I'm going to somehow try to get access to the NX. Maybe my family will just buy it and I'll play it theirs or something. So that's where I'm set with gaming right now. So what I'm basically doing is I am acknowledging the NX, because I get why that's happening, so that's fine. And I'm just going to wait on the other two because I don't know what you are, and I'm upset that you exist.
Alright, sounds like a good plan.